Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Let's hear it for Friday. Yay! Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be a fun Friday for me. And I think, Richard, I said as I was going out the door yesterday, have a great weekend. Did that confuse you at all?
I'm not going to beat around the bush with this. Anything that goes on during the hours of 10 and 3, I don't listen to anything.
Richard, you're not hanging on every single word that comes out of my mouth.
I do not, and I apologize.
You
but
should.
it's a real bad habit to develop.
Mm-hmm.
But everything from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., I'm focused on getting the show going and other things. So actually listening, sitting down, and hearing people.
Well, I'm glad I've got those listeners out there that listen to every word and will comment, will call me out on it, or and beat me down. But that's okay. That's all right. Because today's show, I just have a feeling you're going to put everything down, take your fingers away from the computer, and listen, because we've got Don Wilson on. Don Wilson, our LA connection, and the boy that was given such a great gift. I mean. Mm-hmm. It was a terrible thing that happened, a tragic thing that happened to Don Wilson. His family, he was at his grandmother's, and his family were all killed in a train crash. And his father had known Elvis Presley and had taken him to meet Elvis Presley a few times. And then after this happened, he wrote a letter to Elvis and told him what happened. And so Elvis immediately took this kid under his wing, became like a guardian, and also just like whatever he needed, what he wanted. It was great. He was always there for him, and he knew that, and he knew that he was there for him, and that just changed his life totally. So this guy has so many stories, has met so many celebrities. I mean, I can't get in a name-dropping contest with this guy. Nobody can. He's amazing, who all he knows. But the main person everybody wants to hear about, I'm sure, is Elvis. I asked him, I said, does it bother you? I mean, you're an amazing person. You've got a lot of talent. You do a lot of things. And I said, but when people find out that you were friends with Elvis for many years, what does that do? And he goes, no, it's fine. I love to talk about it. I love Elvis. And so he's very generous with giving all that information. He had a radio show, where it was called The Mystery Train, and he had people on that knew Elvis, and they talked about him. And so the whole show was about, it's kind of like, Elvis memorabilia type show. And and it went on for many years, and he moved, and now he's in L.A., and so he's our L.A. connection, and he listens to the show. It's so exciting. He listens to the show every day, and so I'm very proud to have him. And he had 13 of his friends like our show page, and I've got I'm so excited to have him on. It's just such a privilege. So he'll be on our second segment, and that's coming up. But OEU. All right, how many of you know what I'm referring to? Do you know what Brexit is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. See, we want to keep everybody informed. Mm. Okay, so they pulled a huge upset.
Yep.
That Britain voted to leave the European Union. Mm-hmm. My grandchildren messed me up so bad. Yeah, because y'all said, Grandma, say European. And I went, European? And they just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I was, what's so funny about European? What? And they go, say it slower. And I said, Europe. I said, why in the world would you put that word in my head with that definition? And I am sitting here trying to tell a story about something serious, and now I can't. And every time I was listening to him on the news say it, I was like, oh, my word, you messed that word up for me. But anyway, so they, and it's even worse, is their initials, EU. So the EU, they pulled out of the EU, the European Union, and nobody was expecting it. I mean, not until their time is much different than ours. So, but right before people started voting, the polls showed that they were going to stay in. They were not going to leave. And boy, did they get a surprise of their life.
It was really close, though. It was like 51.
Well, it's 52 to 48.
Oh, yeah, 52 to 48, yeah.
And it was 51. 51 is something
51.9
like 0.9. Yeah,
I've
never seen that before.
Or something like that. I'm like, wow, it was really close.
But it was a shock. So at 2:30 this morning, our time.
But don't you feel like you could easily smudge that?
Smudge what?
Like whoever's doing the final count. It's like, if we make it look close enough, we can do what we want.
It'll be more
you
exciting.
You should have seen all these, the...
Well, no one can argue that, though. It's like...
Well, no, but they have all these people standing around them as they go through and count, and make the count. Mm-hmm. And it's, it looked like an amazing process that was really being watched over and all. So it was interesting. But here's the deal. At 2:30 this morning, David Cameron, the Prime Minister, walks out, and I get to see it. He walks out to make a comment on the fact that they're staying in. That's what everybody thought. In this comment, which he was great. It was such a well written, rejection speech, because he says, "Listen, we've got to stay with the will of the people. The people, have spoken and all, and so we're going to do exactly what they say. And but I know everyone knows that I wasn't for this, so I don't think I'm the one that should be leading the ship here. Yes. I shouldn't be captain anymore. So I will be stepping down." And everybody just blew everybody away. No one was seeing that coming. And so he comes out, he resigns. He's going to step down in 3 months. And this is a huge deal. I mean, our markets, you can see the stock markets are going absolutely crazy. But actually, nothing's happened to the money. The money's all where it's supposed to be and all that stuff. Nothing's been devalued, and their pound is the pound today. Yeah. But our markets go nuts. And they dropped over 500 points at one point. Wow. And now it's starting to come back. It's starting to come back a little bit. So everybody has to get real jittery and all that stuff. But it is going to be a big deal, a big change. And this hadn't happened in, they've been a union for 60 years. So it's strange for everybody. They're just like, feeling independent, yes, and happy about that. But the ones who wanted to stay in are feeling kind of nervous. So who shows up today? That this had been planned for a long time in Scotland. This was planned, it was a building of a huge hotel and golf course there. And this was being done by Donald Trump's son. He was allowing him to do it because when he decided to run for president, he couldn't stay with the project. Mm-hmm. So his two sons and daughter finished the project. And so Scotland's really excited about this. It's beautiful, and this was the grand opening today. This happened to coincide with this vote, which they didn't know about when they started building and making these plans. Yeah. And there is Donald Trump right there in the big middle of, they just made this vote happen, historic vote, and now we have from America the presidential nominee, presumptive nominee on the Republican side. There he is, getting to comment before anybody else does. And so everybody, the CNN and MSNBC and Fox and everybody are just waiting with bated breath. Here he comes to the podium. He makes this long walk down the last hole or something green, and he comes up to the podium. And they're just, giddy, thinking, what is he going to say that's going to mess this whole thing up? Mm-hmm. So he gets up there and he says, well, congratulations on the vote, and that you've decided to take your independence. That's great, and luck to everyone. And then he goes into about a 15-minute advertisement on the hotel, and gives the dimensions of the rooms and all this stuff. So it's just like they cut away from him after about 5 minutes of this infomercial he's doing. Wow. on the world stage, because they thought for sure he'd open up with something about what had happened. And this is a huge elephant in the room, and you're not going to even, say anything about it. So it goes on and on. They keep coming back, and they're laughing, and they're going this is what you were going to expect, right? This is what we're going to have as a president. He's going to go, and if he happens to be near one of his properties, he's going to talk about that and advertise that. Well, he went on, and then somebody else came up and spoke, and so they cut away. But then he came back up and did a press conference. And in that press conference, because there was media from everywhere, all over the world in there, but we couldn't see it. So all the stations come back to him, and they start asking him questions, pointed questions like, what do you think of this? And what Obama was against this. Hillary was against this, and you're for it. So he started answering these questions, and I mean, it was no holds barred, but it was very low key. He didn't get upset, and he says, "Listen, this is none of my business. What happens here? The people spoke, so that's what's going to happen, and people need to listen to him." And just like in America, the people have spoken, and nobody was expecting it, but they're tired. They're sick and tired of stupid decisions. And y'all have had some pretty stupid decisions here, but we have them back in America, and that's what I got to focus on. I'm just feeling like it's going to be better for you guys down the road, and you've got your independence. You've got this back, and you're not letting people come into your country. And that's what was the big deal, was immigration, and let the refugees come in and not have them vetted. So he came in, and the whole thing he did was great. He really did a great job. So then he goes back to those people that were laughing about it, and egg on their face. Listen, you are listening to Cindy Cochran Show. And when we get back, we're going to be talking to Don Wilson. You can't go away. You can't miss the stories he has about Elvis. All right, we'll see you in just a minute. Thank you so much for listening.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are looking for talk show hosts and volunteer DJs for our music shows. Are you interested in having your own talk show on Lone Star, or have you always wanted to live out your dreams of being a music DJ? With the addition of Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and video aspects of our talk shows, we are needing people to grow with us. If you or someone you know might be interested, please contact us online at irlonestar.com/contact us, or call the station at 936-647-5747 for more information.
The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for listening. It is Friday, and we're so excited about Friday. Yes, we are. But even more so because of who we have on today. You met him a few weeks ago. Don Wilson was on with me, and he is someone who found me. We met in 1976 at Channel 13. And he came on to talk about his relationship with Elvis and how Elvis had taken him under his wing after he lost his parents. And he has. Hello, Cindy. Start your mouth over. Okay. He has autographs of everybody in the whole world. I mean, he has autographs from everybody. He has pictures of everybody. I can't do the name dropping game with you at all, Don. I mean, you win every time. It's amazing who you know, but you spent all those years with Elvis, and he introduced you to everybody, and all you had to do was say, "Yeah, I'm Elvis's friend," and you like immediately got in the front line of going in all the clubs and stuff, I'm sure. But good morning, Don Wilson, and thank you for being with us.
Hey, good morning, Cindy. How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing absolutely fabulous. When you consider the alternative, I'm going to be fabulous. So I got Joey Sheaf with me here today, my intern, and I've got Samuel and Cindy Combs, my grandchildren, and they're here with me. And Samuel with his buzz cut and his, what's the name of him? This Deadpool shirt. He didn't wear his Elvis shirt. He wore his Deadpool shirt. Deadpool
yeah. By the way, hey, how's Carolyn doing?
Carolyn is doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Because Carolyn is probably the biggest. Everybody says that. Elvis Presley's number one fan. She...
Yeah, we used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, and so she'll probably say, well, tell Elvis I said hi. But I will tell her. Don, listen, I saw your blog. If you go on your internet and go to Hollywood Beat, immediately comes up Don Wilson. And I love your page. It's wonderful. And the story, I read that, and, we talked about we were going to play. We're going to play in just a minute. We'll play Elvis's press conference that he had at the Astrodome right before he played in the rodeo. And that was in 1970. And so we're going to show that, play that and let you comment on how you were a big part of that and how it was a big part of you getting to meet Elvis in the first place. Now, tell me about your dad. Saw him first in what city was it here in Texas?
It was in Houston.
He saw him first in Houston.
At the old Eagles Hall back in '55.
The Eagles Hall
downtown.
Okay, and then Elvis talked about how many small cities he's played. So many cities here in Texas, and he said just little towns. I mean, we just come across a little town. We played in these little towns, and so he says, "I love Texas." As he says in this news conference, but I'd like to play that and then have you tell the story about, what an impact that had on you, because that's when you first met him. Is that correct?
That's right. It was at the Astroworld Hotel.
Right. So,
yeah.
If we are ready for that interview, this is 1970 at the Houston Astroworld Hotel. And with Elvis Presley, and he was getting ready to do the performance for the rodeo. So here we go.
So I like it, boy. Compared to Las Vegas.
What made you decide to come to Texas?
Well, to tell you the truth, I started out here in Texas. I think the first shows that I worked was down here, man, around Houston.
Remember what locations you worked here in Texas?
Well, I worked Houston. I worked Corpus Christi. Every little town here, Longview, man. You name it, I've been there. Really, I've been all over Texas.
What do you think of Texas?
I like it.
Elvis, can you
really
give
enjoy
us? I understand with all the big engagements like Las Vegas, etc., the reason why you selected the livestock show and rodeo this year.
Well, they asked me to do it, and I was anxious to do some live appearances. It'd been a long time since I've been on stage in front of anybody live. And I was anxious to do some live appearances, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get in front of the people.
Have you ever seen the inside of a dome before?
Never have. It scares them. It's a big place, man,
You've been known in the past as the king of rock and roll. Do you think your style has changed now?
That's him. That's so cool. I was going through the internet, and all of a sudden this came up, and I went, "What? This is Elvis there at a press conference and talking about Texas." He was looked extremely young, Don. And so how old were you when you went to that rodeo?
I was 9, when I met him. So, yeah, my dad had, like I said, he'd met him back in '55, and he kept in touch with him here and there, and just made arrangements for Colonel Parker, and that's where the Colonel had us, go. And so I was the proverbial fly on the wall. I actually saw all of that. And
wow.
I remember chuckling because there was at one point that there was like a fire truck or an ambulance that went by, and Elvis said, "Are they coming to get me or what?"
That's right. That's exactly right. And his dad was there. His dad was there, and he called his dad up. So you were sitting back there with the reporters?
Yeah, I was right behind the reporters. I wasn't with them, because right. Yeah, it was my dad and I, and we were back there with the Colonel's aides and stuff. But
oh man,
yeah, and then I just went up to Elvis right after the press conference, and he said, "Hi, I'm Elvis Presley." Like I didn't know, and
that's funny.
And I said, "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Presley." And he says, "No, I'm Elvis. Mr. Presley's over there. That's my daddy."
You know what's funny, Don, is that you can tell you spend a lot of time around him. You've got that. Yeah, thank you very much. You got that sound in your voice. It's like a real Tennessean. Have people told you that you sound like him too?
Well, yeah. Even George Klein, one of Elvis's high school buddies, says, "Hey, man, you're not trying to do that, are you? That's really happening." And I said, "Yeah." In fact, I think what it was is if I listened to Elvis, it threw me when I started listening to Elvis talk on the phone because it almost felt like I was talking to him again. Just hearing his voice on the phone was weird.
Yeah.
But
I bet.
if I listen to him, Cindy, I start picking up a little bit, and I had to try to separate that because I was like a sponge. I kind of sounded. Yeah, I picked up things he did.
Right, right. Well, I know that you did, and you also did some. You said Tommy Sands. Would you imitate Elvis on some of those shows you were doing?
Not with Tommy Sands. I did some Elvis shows for a while, and but that was when I hit 40. I said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. But no, that's when I started recording my own music, and But the funny thing about Tommy Sands is that I was performing with him and Glenn and Alan Clark and all these guys in here in California, and the first time that my dad had met Elvis, Tommy Sands was on that show at the Eagles Hall in Houston as well.
Was he? See,
yeah.
I bet. Joey, do you remember Tommy Sands? He's going.
It slips my mind right now.
That's it. You've never heard Tommy Sands, have you, Richard? Okay, that's what I mean. All these young people, it's hard to be around young people because Tommy
I
Sands.
think Tommy might be listening. Tommy he used to be married to Nancy Sinatra.
Right.
I know you know that name.
Oh yes.
And he made some movies and
that's what I mean.
A lot
he was
TV appearances. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was a big fan of his, and all of a sudden it was like, where's Tommy Sands? Where'd he go? Because he really had such an impression on us. I know the Texas teenagers he did. So, but the movies and stuff, we go to the movies to see him, and it was just like amazing. So when you said that you were doing a show with him, I thought that's cool, and so I didn't know if you were still doing the impersonations or not. And so at 40 you decided not to do that again. That was a good choice. I think 40 would be a good choice to stop doing that. But you've done so many things that is still related to Elvis, but you've done documentaries of other people and all that, right?
That's right. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and
just to
Marilyn
mention
Monroe.
A few.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Monroe? What?
Yeah, but I interviewed some people that had known Marilyn.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
A whole bunch of Marilyn impersonators, But,
so you got to. That's right.
That was kind of fun, actually.
I bet, because I thought, wait a minute, he's too young to have been doing a documentary about Marilyn Monroe. So you were doing, like a memorial thing for her, right?
Yeah, I interviewed different people that had known her, and of course, Jeannie Carmen was a very good friend of mine, and she was one of Marilyn's best friends. She was one of the last people that Marilyn talked to. And
wow.
she knew so many secrets. She could not only just tell you, she could draw a map
where the bodies are buried.
Exactly.
Wow. Good grief. Well, it must be really fun for people who know all the behind the scenes and the real answers to things to watch how the public is being fed things and believing things about it. And that's why I love talking to you, because I know you were there and you brought to my awareness all the benevolence that Elvis had. That he was working with, he'd work with children, handicapped children, and all. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's not a part of Elvis's side that we get to hear about.
Well, the reason is because he didn't want anybody to really know about it. It was. He really knew the Bible, backwards and forwards, and that's pretty much what you do. You don't do things just for everybody to know about it. So if he did something, and the press got hold, he said, don't print that. He said, I'll give you an exclusive on something else, but don't say anything, because he just had a big heart, and every year, he gave to not only Memphis charities, but a lot of charities, tens of thousands of dollars every year, and. If there was a child or a group, I remember one time there was the Home for the Blind actually wanted to come to a concert, and they did, and Elvis didn't know where they were seated, and they were right behind the stage. So Elvis, unlike other performers, would turn his back on the audience and he would throw scarves. And he looks to Charlie, the guy that gives him his scarves, and he says, "Hey, Charlie, why isn't anybody taking those scarves?" He says, "Elvis, that's, the home for the blind." Oh, okay. He said, "I thought I was losing it for a while." But,
that's great. Oh, my goodness. Well, he did exactly what he's supposed to do is the way he played it out. He's great. That's why he's such a great entertainer. Don, hang on. We're going to go to a break right now, and I know what you know what those are. Yeah, so we'll be about 2 minutes, and we'll be right back with Don Wilson and more stories behind the scenes with Elvis Presley. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Cindy Cochran Show.
The Cindy Cochran Show. Real reality radio.
Lone Star Community Radio is FM. That's right. Set your radio dials and your button presets to Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1, coming in June of 2016. To celebrate this edition and the addition of video versions of our talk and music shows on YouTube, cable TV, and Our City TV, we are offering special sponsorships rates, which include free audio spots that are played throughout our broadcast. Interested? Check out our sponsor rates for shows just like the one you're listening to online at irlonestar.com/sponsor, or call the station at 936-647-5747. Reaching the people of Montgomery County with Montgomery County's community radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
The Cindy Cochran Show. Talk show serving Montgomery County.
Yes, I am. I'm serving Montgomery County. Boy, it sounds so official. Yes, I am. You are listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, and I'm Cindy Cochran. It works out so well that way. You don't have to change names or the sign or anything. Listen, Joy Sheaf, intern extraordinaire, is here, and on the phone with us is Don Wilson. And Don, Joy would like to ask you a question. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, Joy, take it away.
Yeah, no, well, you were saying that that Elvis did a lot of things that the general public didn't really know about, just because he didn't want them to know about it, and that he was really big with the Bible and Scripture and everything. So I was just wondering, just like, what were some of your favorite experiences that you and Elvis experienced together that the general public doesn't really know about?
Well, the thing is, we'd sit and he'd talk about the Bible, he'd talk about philosophy. He gave me some books, I sent pictures to Cindy of them. It's The Leaves of Gold. That's one of his favorite. But those different authors that would write about that. He was a very well-read guy.
Wow.
Joy. And, but he'd get real serious about things. Like he'd talk about mind over matter. He's real serious,
Yeah.
And then Larry Geller, who was very spiritual himself, Elvis's pal and mine, and he said, "If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." And Elvis would usually say something like "smart aleck," but no, not that particular time. But but anyway, but
I'm gonna have to write that down.
That's the thing is, I would talk to him, about spiritual things, and and I was studying the Bible at the time, so.
I got to tell you,
I guess that's hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting how down to earth Elvis seemed. Yeah, and
right.
how he was. You don't hear that about many other stars in the 21st century.
Well, it's kind of like, it seemed like why he kept all his friends that he'd grown up with or that he started out with, so that he knew they were true and loyal.
Right.
Correct,
Absolutely.
Don?
That's correct, and. I wanted to touch on Larry. I mean, I mentioned Larry Geller. Well, he was his personal hairstylist. He did 11 movies with him. He started with Roustabout, and all the concerts and Vegas performances. He even did the hair for the funeral. And he told me that I wasn't there right when they closed the casket, but he was there with Priscilla and Dave Sumner. Anyway, he said I had to be the last one to touch Elvis, and so right before they closed the lid, I went and touched his forehead.
Oh man! Oh. How pitiful! I wondered about that. I didn't know if you were there at the funeral or
I was at the viewing. Yeah,
at the viewing,
and then they put me to work because there were so many people that were fainting because it was so hot, and people laying out on the grass, and the paramedics were there, and we took out these baggies of water and would place them on people's foreheads and stuff. Everybody's passing out. Yeah, it was bad.
My word! And that was in the line waiting for the viewing that we're walking through, right? Is that
right? Yeah, thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
They had them in the music room.
Wow. I remember seeing that all those people and how that was just amazing. Where were you when you heard about it?
Well, I was in Houston, and in fact, I just finished reading the What Happened book by Red and Sonny West and Dave Hebler. And then I sat it down, I turned the television on, and then the news bulletin came on about Elvis dying, and I'd been trying to get a hold of him, calling him all morning, and I couldn't get a hold of him.
Oh, man.
And
about the book?
Because, yeah, he was, I was going to see him, on his next tour, and I was going to catch what the time would be a good one,
Yeah.
But and then the next thing I know, I turned on 13, and they played Elvis doing Wooden Heart, and there's Dave Ward talking about how Elvis had died.
Oh, man.
If you don't mind me asking, like saying, sort of going along with this, what was the last phone call you had with him?
Well, that was in July, and it was a couple of days before he wrote that letter.
Okay.
And what had happened is, Elvis was concerned about the What Happened book.
That was let me explain that, Joey, that there was a book that came out, and these were people that were in his entourage. Not all of them, but a few of them had written this. And they said they wrote it to try and make people aware that he was taking drugs and try and force him into, some rehab and get help and all of that.
Oh, wow.
And did some of a tell-all type thing. And it really upset him because loyalty was everything to him. Is that correct, Don?
Well, that's right. Yeah, he had told Red West, Red had called him, and he told him that he was always going to be there for him, and you just do what you have to do, but it still hurt Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dave Hebler might be listening, because he's on Facebook with me, but they really did try to do that to help him, but Steve Dunleavy, who was the writer, he kind of sensationalized it, took a lot of it, what they said out of context, according to them. So.
Because it made, as a fan, I was so angry at them, and that they had hurt Elvis that way. And then when they interviewed Elvis about it, and he didn't talk about it. He wouldn't talk about it. What I remember from them trying to get a response from him about the book, but that he wouldn't, he wasn't going to throw them under the bus like he felt like he probably felt he was. But so when you talked to him in July on the phone, he was
and what it was is he was just asking me about what the fans would think. I said the fans are going to love you no matter what.
That's right.
Because he didn't know. Mm-hmm. Because up until that time he'd never had anything like that. Really. Yeah. That he really thought it'd be like scandalous or whatever. But
and imagine.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Imagine how the isolation that he was in, being away from fans. He couldn't text and see or do a tweet out to see what everybody was feeling. So he had to just rely on everybody telling him, everything's fine. But this, when he read it, really hurt him, and so it's good that you told him that. I'm glad you told him.
And he had met Alice Cooper, and he liked him, but he was just like, nowadays people are going to Alice Cooper concerts, and Kiss, and he says Kiss can blank my, kiss my,
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was just him talking, But I mean, he really didn't criticize other performers, but he was just, like, what are the kids into? Are they still going to be, coming to my shows? And he told me one time, he says, I have these dreams every now and then. He says, I wake up and I'm driving a truck again. You know, he said, and I had a dream one night, you know, like, you know, I lost all my hair, and I looked in the mirror and said, oh, thank God, it's still there.
That, you know, I think when the Beatles came out, and then that was around 1964 when they came out, and that was huge, and I'm sure he felt like, okay, it's all going that way, and you know, they're not going to hear me again. He'd been doing these movies that he hated, he said, and then he had that the concert in Vegas in '69. It was like his first appearance before the public in a long time, and how nervous he was. All the musicians that were on that stage with him just talked about how nervous he was. He was like a cat walking back and forth, and just didn't know if they were going to like him, what were they going to do. And the drummer said when he walked out, you know, his face just wasn't, you could tell it was just drained. And then when the applause and the explosion of the applause and people jumping up and down, and he said, I just saw the old Elvis. I could just see his face just totally transformed. And I thought, that was so sad that he was so nervous, and he went out there and killed it, you know, during that time. I don't know. Did you get to see that?
Not that particular one. The first time I met him was at the Astrodome, which was February.
Oh, that's right.
Did the August thing.
Yeah.
And I mean August '69. But what really right before that, what really happened was NBC wanted a Christmas special, and Steve Bender, a friend of mine, was the producer and director. Said, "No, Elvis, gotta get you in black leather. Go do your hits and stuff." And that's really what made the comeback in Las Vegas possible when he did that TV special in '68.
Boy, I was
when
glued to that. Yeah.
But when Vegas hit, there was no turning back.
No.
You know, and I talked to Angie Dickinson not too long ago, and she was at the first show. First show was just for celebrities only,
right.
July 31st, and she was there, Johnny Carson and whoever. She said, I still get chills when I think about it.
That's awesome. Well, it was great. And then when he did the Hawaiian thing, now you probably weren't the concert.
I didn't go there, but yeah, I remember it. And yeah, most people saw him on a log from Hawaii than saw a man walk on the moon. Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly right. I know you're that's so true. And how, you know, and then it was that in 73? 73. Okay.
73.
So he started doing it, and then in 77, he was getting ready to do another tour. Is that correct? They were already selling tickets.
He was started in Portland, Maine the next day.
Right. And so the results of that were that it was it a heart attack? Was it? I can't remember now what they said.
Well, Dr. Nicopoulos was also my doctor, and I talked to him, you know, in an interview. But even when I would go to the office, you know, I'd say, "Come on, Dr. Nick, you know, tell me what happened." And without getting too graphic, it was he fell forward. He had a massive heart attack, and you know, and he nearly bit his tongue in two. Dr. Nick said. So it was a big impact, and even if they'd have got to him, they probably couldn't have saved him. And he said that his heart was 2 times his normal size. He put so much pressure on it, and it was the heart of an 80-year-old man.
Oh my word. God. Good grief. Well,
yeah, it was heart disease. Yeah, it was a cardiac arrhithmia, which was a irregular heartbeat, and there was heart problems on his mother's side of the family, and actually his father too. You know, and so and a couple of his cousins had passed away at an early age. So they knew that. It seemed like he would have been, you know, really trying to. You know, it's like, who am I to say? You know, and they say, you got this in your history, so you need to really take care of yourself and all that. And he'd gone and played racquetball that day, and I can't believe I remember this stuff. This is coming back to me, that he played racquetball that day, and then that happened that night. That's just, I mean, his days and nights were all mixed up, and when somebody would have to, you know, rent the whole theater out or rent the whole skating rink out and all that so that they could go in, he'd take his friends in there and do something normal that he couldn't just walk into a place, or he couldn't do anything out in public by just, you know, walking outdoors and I'm going to go to the park and walk around. No, because I'm sure
it would create chaos wherever he went. That must have been frustrating. Did he ever talk to you about that?
Well, he did go sometimes. In fact, in Memphis, he drove around in his three-wheeler all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, he'd go Krispy Kreme, and he'd go to Crystal Hamburgers, and what have you. And I remember one time Linda Thompson talked him into going to McDonald's. He'd never been to McDonald's. Called down on the intercom and everything, and said, "All right, fellas, we're going to McDonald's." And I'm like, "What? McDonald's?" And so I go in there, it's Elvis and Linda, and he's looking around, and nobody's bothering him. Sits down. Guy comes over and says, "Who you think you are? You think you're Elvis Presley?" He says, "I am Elvis Presley." "No, you're not. You're probably one of those impersonators." He says, "Linda, will you please tell this man who I am?" And she said, "Will you stop that Elvis crap, George?"
That's great. Oh, that is great. What a great story. I love that. That's wonderful. You when is your book coming out?
Well, I wrote one, but I don't have anybody that's interested in it yet, so maybe after this they might.
Yes. Tell them you've been on the Cindy Cochran Show, and I'll write the forward for it. It'll be great. That's all you need to
Cindy,
do.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I was talking about, you just can't name drop with you at all. But there's this one thing, we only have a couple of minutes, we got to go. But when you're talking about him reading the Bible and all that, when he got into that really heavy, I had interviewed Tom Jones, and Tom Jones and his people were talking. I said, "Well, do you and Elvis, y'all get together? Are y'all good friends because of the notoriety? I mean, how popular he was?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." He says, "I like Elvis a lot." He says, "But Elvis has gotten really boring because he reads the Bible all the time. When we go over there, we want to party like with the old Elvis, and all he wants to do is read the Bible." And I thought that was I was just like so impressed. That just made me like him even more, that was the deal. But he said, it's just not the same Elvis. It's just boring. Well, that's okay. That's a good way to be bored.
Well, it was the same Elvis. It was just that he didn't open up and until later, I guess, with Tom. But
but it was interesting because Tom Jones was having to do kind of the same thing. He was at the height of his popularity, and he was having to rent things out and do that. That's the only way they could go out. And he says, "You kind of become a prisoner." And I said, "Well, imagine," and this is so bad. He didn't throw me out of the limo. I said, "Well, imagine if you're having to go through that. Imagine what Elvis had to go through." That probably wasn't a good thing to say to him because, wait a minute.
True.
I'm just as popular as Elvis Presley is. No, nobody was ever as popular as Elvis Presley. So
that's true. Speaking of, there's so many books are coming out, but there's a couple of good ones that I want to mention. Linda Thompson's book's coming out on August 23rd. It's called A Little Thing Called Life.
Wow.
And she talks about her relationship with Elvis for 5 years and her marriage to Bruce Jenner. And then My Brother Elvis by David Stanley, a stepbrother, that's coming out.
Well, anybody that if Linda wants to come on, please tell her I would love to interview her. Is her name Melinda? Or is it?
It's Linda.
It's Linda. It's not. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if she shortened it to Linda. Okay, but yeah, she'd like to do a Texas.
I told you about you a couple days ago. So
Okay, well then tell her.
Maybe I'll remind her.
Say, I would love to talk to you about your book. It would be great. No gotcha questions. It's just we just have a good time. It would be wonderful. Okay, well I've got to go. Man, it just flies by, Don. This is amazing. So I just.
It always does when I talk to you for some reason. And it's nice talking to you too, Joey.
Oh, nice talking to you, Mr. Wilson. Nice meeting you too.
That's great.
Keep telling me how Carolyn is, from time to time.
I will. I certainly will. And she's gonna frame this interview. I don't know how she's gonna do it, but it'll be framed. Thank you, Don, so much. You have a great day, and you'll be back. And when we go FM, I'm gonna brag that you're gonna be on my first show. Okay. That'd be all right.
Oh, well, thank you. You're great. I enjoy your show every day, Cindy.
You're wonderful. Okay. That's Don Wilson. Thank you, Don Wilson. We will see you. And go to Hollywood Beat and read his blog. It's amazing, all the pictures he has. Okay, I'm getting a big wind up. Okay, thank you, Don. We'll talk to you soon. And guys, have a great weekend. Go out and make somebody happy, and you'll be happier. And we will talk to you soon. Love you, Mom. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schisler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schisler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.